Picture this. Friday prayers at a mosque, time for peace and reflection, and then suddenly, bam, an explosion rips through the mosque.
Huh.
This happened in northwestern Pakistan, and among the injured was Abdullah Nadim. He's a leader in the JUIF political party. So what happened here? Was this bombing an attack specifically meant for Nadim, or is it just another sign of how unstable things are becoming in the whole region?
Well, that's a good question, right? It's like, was this a targeted attack or just chaos? I mean, Abdullah Nadim and his party, the JUIF, they've been around for a while. They're a big deal in Pakistani politics. They've got a ton of followers, and they're pretty influential. I mean, not everyone loves them. They have a kind of, shall we say, a colorful past. So when someone like Nadim gets caught in a blast, it really makes you wonder what's going on.
Yeah, it definitely raises some eyebrows. And this isn't even an isolated incident. The areas along the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan are getting more and more dangerous. It seems like every day there's a new attack, and they're getting bolder. It's like an action movie gone wrong over there.
And this is on top of what happened last month, remember? A suicide bomber hit a religious school in the same northwestern region. People died. And it's not just any school, it's one of those places that has ties to the Afghan Taliban. You can't ignore a connection like that.
Right, and then on top of that, this week we had bloc separatists hijacking a train
Yeah.
and taking passengers hostage. They held them for a whole day. This isn't just a random act of violence. This is organized.
Yeah.
Something bigger is going on.
Totally. So, of course, with all this happening, the Pakistani government's got to do something, right? They're under huge pressure. So who do they blame? Afghanistan. They claim all these militant groups are hiding out in Afghanistan, plotting and launching attacks, and then running back over the border.
Classic blame game. But does that really hold up? I mean, Afghanistan's denying it. They're like, nope, not us. We have no clue what you're talking about. But, this border region has a really complicated past. So who knows what's really happening?
Right, we can't forget the history here. Like, go back a few decades. The Soviets invaded Afghanistan in the late 70s, early 80s. Pakistan, with some help from the U.S., they supported those Afghan fighters, the Mujahideen, who were fighting against the Soviets. Now, fast forward, and guess what? Those very same fighters and the networks they built played a key role in the rise of all these militant groups, including, you guessed it, the Taliban. It's all connected.
Yeah, it's like a chain reaction. And then you had the Taliban taking over Afghanistan in the 90s. Even though Pakistan officially recognized them, it was still a really complicated relationship, tons of tension and hidden agendas. It wasn't a simple friends forever kind of deal.
Not at all. Then 9/11 happened, the U.S. invaded Afghanistan, and the Taliban was out, at least for a while. And what did Pakistan get? A huge spike in militancy within their own borders, a direct result of all the chaos in the region. It's like everything that happens in Afghanistan spills over into Pakistan.
And now the Taliban's back in charge in Afghanistan, so here we go again. More instability in Pakistan. It seems like anytime there's a big power shift in Afghanistan, Pakistan gets hit hard.
So back to that mosque bombing. Let's say, for argument's sake, it was a targeted attack. Then the question becomes, who did it? And there are a few groups that come to mind.
Right. The big one is the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, the TTP, the Pakistani Taliban. They've got a really violent past. I mean, they've done some horrible things, attacks in Pakistan. They've gone after religious and political figures. That attack on the school in Peshawar, that was them. So many kids died. It's a reminder of how brutal they can be. They basically want to enforce their strict interpretation of Islamic law all over Pakistan.
Exactly. And that's why they're a prime suspect here. They've got the motive, and they're not afraid to use violence. Someone like Abdullah Nadim, he's a political leader. His party has a lot of religious influence, but they also play politics, He could definitely be on the TTP's hit list.
And then you have those bloc separatist groups. They've been fighting for independence from Pakistan for ages. They've mainly attacked security forces, government buildings, stuff like that, mostly in Balochistan. But that train hijacking, that shows they can pull off some serious operations.
True, but attacking a mosque, that's not really their style. They're more focused on the government, the state, especially in Balochistan. They haven't really gone after religious targets like this before, but you never know. Things change.
And then, of course, you always get those conspiracy theories. Some people are talking about foreign intelligence agencies getting involved, like maybe India or the U.S. or even Israel are behind it, trying to stir up trouble in the region. It's kind of a common theme in this part of the world, blaming outsiders.
Yeah, you'll hear people say, oh, India's doing it to destabilize Pakistan, or the U.S. is trying to control the region. It's hard to say for sure, and you rarely see any real proof. But look, foreign involvement in Afghanistan and Pakistan has a long history, especially during the Cold War. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility.
So with all these different groups, what's Pakistan doing about it? Well, we're hearing the same old promises, right? Crackdowns on militancy, bringing those responsible to justice. It all sounds familiar.
Yeah, the words are familiar, but the problems are still there. Pakistan has some serious obstacles when it comes to fighting militancy, the biggest one. They say these groups are hiding out in Afghanistan. That means they can plan attacks, strike, and then run back across the border. It's hard to stop them.
Not to mention, Pakistan's economy is struggling right now. They just don't have the money to throw at huge counterterrorism operations. Fighting these groups takes a lot of resources, money, manpower, intelligence. It's a tough situation.
And then there's the political mess. Pakistan's gone through a lot of political turmoil lately, new leaders, infighting. It's hard to focus on fighting terrorism when everyone's fighting each other.
So where do we go from here? Is this mosque bombing just going to be another headline that people forget about? Or could this be a turning point? It feels like Pakistan's at a crossroads.
They've got some tough choices to make. They could really try to clamp down on these militant groups. That probably means working with Afghanistan, maybe even putting pressure on them to deal with the safe havens, but that's risky. It could cause even more problems.
Or they could just keep blaming everyone else while the real problems fester. We've seen that before. It might be easier politically, but it doesn't actually solve anything.
Whatever they do, this mosque bombing shows us just how dangerous things are in this region. It makes you wonder what the future holds. Will we see more violence? And what about those hidden factors? The political deals, the outside pressure, what role will they play? It's a complicated situation with no easy answers.
It really makes you think.
Absolutely. It's a situation that needs our attention.